Loft Chats, the home of Shatterpoint.
Hello, we're back again with the Loft Chats podcast with my host David.
Hello.
And me, still Stephen.
Ready to chat.
Ready to chats, ready to lofts. We've actually named some segments, so hopefully this is a more listenable format than last time's random ramble. We thought we'd start with some hobbying news, breakdowns on games we've played in the last couple of weeks. What have you been up to, David?
I'm actually painting Grievous right now. He's been sitting half painted for about 6 months. Finally finish him off. I mean, he's seen play on the table. I just haven't finished up the detail work.
Yeah, I've got a Django who's based but needs some detailing. That's how I leave a lot of my figures I sort of half play with.
Yeah, me too. I actually feel like that's something that happens a lot to my Shatterpoint minis, which may be a good sign that we're looking more to play with them than to paint them. There's always a balance between that.
Yeah, I suppose for me, I definitely find that I have a limited number of hobby hours a week and I have to choose between playing and painting, etc. And I always want to play rather than paint.
I mostly just get desperate when I might go to an event and I have to paint everything I'm going to bring. that always ends up being paint.
2 thick coats of any old paint that's on my shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the crustiest glaze you've ever seen. Hyper glaze, if you want to keep on Star Wars theme. Vibro glaze.
I don't think we've had any new releases recently, so I've not been painting that.
Next week we get Thrawn and Leia. Although maybe last week or 6 weeks ago, who knows.
Yeah.
We went to a tournament on Saturday.
Indeed.
How did you do?
I did. You know what? I did pretty terribly, but I kind of did what I wanted to do. Because I haven't played Shatterpoint in ages because I've been away for work. And I managed to play a lot of games with the new stuff, and mostly on the new mission. Never tell me the odds.
Yeah, as we know, if you have 4 good games of Shatterpoint, you can't be a loser.
Oh, of course. I mean, you...
That's always what we tell ourselves at the bottom of the table. No, I had 4 great games of Shatterpoint. How could I be a loser? As I cry into my pillow at night.
Well, I think anybody who plays enough, goes 0-4 plenty of times and 4-0 plenty of times.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
I went 2-2. I was okay with the results, but I was very happy that I got to play some very silly lists. I was taking Han and Hondo as a pair, and I played Hera and Han as well, which was really fun, because nothing on my side of the board would die. I think I took less wounds in that event than I have in single games. I took about 6 wounds over the whole event.
Wow.
Yeah.
I took 1 billion wounds.
Yeah, the rebels do not like dying. They love healing.
Yeah, they seem pretty fun.
What were you playing?
I played Mando.
Oh, yeah.
And Cad Bane.
Oh, yeah.
So the full hunters.
And what was your other list?
The other list I actually didn't really play all day because I really wanted to play Mando Cad Bane.
Is that why you didn't play the full day, David?
The other one was Vader 2 Moff Gideon, I think, which is a bit more serious. I wasn't really in that mood either.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Although I think I like Iden and Gideon a bit more than Vader and Gideon.
Yeah.
Which might be a controversial community opinion.
But I also didn't have my mission pack because it was in the same package.
Oh yeah, did you play Foreign Mission?
I played in Spanish all day, which is fine. It actually doesn't make that much of a difference.
French is my go-to.
Somebody had already claimed the French one.
Oh, those bastards.
I know. I mean, in a way, I appreciate all the multi-language cards in the pack.
Yeah, it's helpful because the maps is the main thing, right? As long as it's not in Mandarin, I think I can work it out.
That one might be okay for me.
Yeah, me less so. I think that covers hobbying news, a rundown on painting, new releases, and the games we played.
Yeah.
Alright, so today our plan was just to talk about the Core Box 1 year on. talk about what we think's good in it, what we think's bad in it, if anything we think needs a little bit of tuning up or down, and if it's still good value 1 year on.
Well, I guess we can start by just saying that it has the best single item in all of Shatterpoint, of course. It has
The 1-inch nudge tool, David.
I was gonna say the little loft cat.
I knew you were.
It's
We spoke about this off mic,
it's
but I thought I'd throw you a curveball with the 1-inch nudge tool that can get under terrain. Ooh.
I actually do like the 1-inch nudge tool.
It's a nice idea, but I think less convenient than I would like it to be. It just doesn't quite work.
Super skeptical when I first saw it, but I actually used it a couple of times. So
I've used it a couple of times, but the 45-degree angle isn't quite enough to get under bits of terrain always.
yeah, maybe.
I'd like it, if anything, to be flatter and a bit more extreme on the angle. But I like the idea.
Yeah, definitely.
What I'd really like is like some base markers, like an X-Wing. Stick this on the side of the base so that you can put your model back where it was and you can measure through models.
Yeah.
Because often you're trying to work out if something's just in or just out of range and it's millimeters.
That's true. I feel like a lot of the AMG and former FFG games have that issue. Like Armada, you gotta move all the little fighters, which gets a bit weird.
But Armada, I assume, like X-Wing, comes with the markers, right? So you can put everything back.
I actually wouldn't know. I think I've only bought secondhand, so whether or not I got all the bits or not.
No, so X-Wing used to come with, because all the bases were square, it just came with a little 90-degree triangle you stick on the corner of the base, and you could put it back exactly where it was. So I think you'd go for a very flat kind of semicircle, like a plastic semicircle. And if you just put that around a base.
Pretty easy. I guess you need two of them because you've got the larger base and the smaller base.
Yeah, you would.
I think otherwise the accessories in the box are pretty good.
They are, and while most of them can be bought elsewhere, things like the token tracker and the tokens can't, which is a shame. I know a few people that want to get into the game but don't want any items in the core set, and so they're considering buying third-party tokens, but
The only thing it's a little bit lacking on is number of dice, especially since it comes with Maul.
number of dice always sucks.
Yeah, every game, I guess.
You get less dice in this box than characters roll on their sheet out of the core box. You get 6 defense dice and Ahsoka has 7 defense. You get 7 attack dice and Anakin has 8? Or do you get 8 attack dice out of the box?
I thought it would be the same number.
No, it's not 6 and 6 because everyone has less defense than attack.
It must be 6 and 8.
It might be 6 and 8, yeah. Because I think I have 12 because I've split my second set of dice. I think I've got 9 and 12, which is a much more reasonable number.
Yeah.
Because also, having 12 and 16 is ridiculous on the other end.
This is true.
Is more dice than anyone needs.
Yeah, I think otherwise pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Maybe the struggle tracker could be a little smaller.
Struggle tracker, we've had this conversation before. Controversial struggle tracker ideas for how you could shrink it down.
I don't know why I'm always annoyed. I think because I try to pack it into these little boxes, right?
It's so massive. And I want to bring it with me in a way where I don't have to leave this piece of cardboard I'm worried about bending in the back part of my backpack with my other stuff.
But hey, maybe we'll get some nice ones for the local tournament scene.
Ooh, some nice acrylic ones, if we can get a GT off the ground. Yeah, other than that, it's just the terrain, which, other than the loft cat, it's all nice enough, but it's just the terrain for the game. The characters are the real meat and potatoes.
Standard terrain. I guess you do want a little bit more terrain.
I went ahead and on eBay bought myself a second bit of the core set terrain, because plenty of people sell their terrain from the core set. It cost me about £40 just for the terrain, which I thought was very reasonable.
Yeah, not bad. I think I went with the high ground box and then a couple of random pieces.
Yeah, I looked at the high ground box, but it's basically the stuff you get in the core set, but for £70, which I just thought was a bit much.
I'm sure I didn't pay that. That sounds too much.
Yeah, I think that's RRP, so maybe it's down a bit on that, but yeah.
So, I guess the first squad is Anakin Skywalker's squad. comes with Rex and 501st. So I really hate one of these. I really love one of these, and I think the third one is actually quite.
Completely ambivalent.
I think it's pretty interesting, and maybe has a good place for early games.
It's true. Strain on coordinated fire is interesting.
All right, so which one do we hate?
We know which one we hate. We know that we hate the 501st.
I don't know. Just
Because they're an embarrassment.
yeah.
They're just worse than the other threes when you look at them side by side. I don't know. There's no fair comparison for them.
Yeah, I guess they are 3 points.
They're 3 points, but when you look at any other 3-pointer in the game, especially the ARFs, there's no way to not mention the ARFs. They really just make them look bad.
It's true.
I think it's part of why Anakin was so bad in the core set, honestly.
Yeah, I never gotten the 501st to do anything other than fall over.
I don't think anyone has.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, they do prove that things can die in this game.
So I guess Rex, on the opposite end,
Rex is incredible. Yes.
definitely one of the best secondaries.
Yeah, he's probably the best secondary within Gar still. Some people talk about Crosshair, but I love Rex.
But you need 2 secondaries anyways, so.
Oh, you do need 2 secondaries. You sound like a man who's played this game before, David.
A couple of times. Yeah, and the last Anakin.
Anakin. He can kill things sometimes, and when he can't,
Yeah,
you're very sad, and you've spent a lot of force to not kill something. I think that's where my issue boils down to with him, is when he doesn't kill something, the game's over. It honestly, on the spot, feels like you've lost all your economy and steam.
yeah. I guess the two force is a lot. His individual hits, I think, are not as beefy as a lot of other primaries these days.
They're likely to get 7 damage.
But the 2 taps really puts him up there.
Yeah,
It does cost 2 force though.
the fact it costs 2 force makes it awkward, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like playing with him. I think he gives you a little something for wounding, which new players coming from other kill focused deathmatch games.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I looked at the core set for Shatterpoint, when it was revealed, God, I was on my phone looking at the pictures people were taking at the table of every card and every stance, and I thought, wow, Anakin looks incredibly good. My initial reaction to him was that he would be long-lasting, game-winning piece.
Yeah, I think at the time I suspected that being able to attack twice was going to be super rare.
Yeah, it's not that rare anymore, and it's never 2 force anymore. Although, he's the only one who attacks twice with full dice, without it costing an action. We have Del Mico, who can attack twice as another action, and it's okay, but again, his base dice is I think 5, so it's not the best attack. That is a unique part of Anakin, is his massive amount of damage. Sometimes he can kill Dooku, sometimes he can't, but sometimes, my powers have doubled since we last met, or maybe they haven't. We'll find out.
Yeah, so
if Rex is the best and the 501st is the worst, do you think that the 501st need a buff?
probably if you want them to be played.
Yeah.
I guess they could use a more niche role than bad at everything, which is never a good role.
Yeah, I suppose the only reason you play them now is because you have 2 requirements for free cost supports.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just run the ARFs.
Or try to meme in something else.
What's better, the 501st or trying to force Magnus in a Republic list? It might still be Magnus.
Yeah, that's pretty painful.
That is, isn't it? The fact it's a question where I seriously think it's probably Magnus is concerning, yeah.
Well, what about the second squad?
The second squad we've got down here is a Sarge, Kraken, and the B1s. I think this one's aged much more consistently, maybe. Although I don't know, what's your opinion on a Sarge? I'm interested.
I like her a lot, actually. So I think maybe in terms of raw strength, she's not at the top, but I think she's a good pairing to play maybe in a game with Anakin, actually. Because she's got a lot of abilities. She jumps around all over the place. Just kind of a fun piece.
I think she's a really fun piece, and I still like putting her in lists. I think her problem is, same as Anakin, she's super force intensive.
Yeah,
Even coming with droids who spend almost nothing, you still end up running out of force when you play her.
I guess it's a similar problem where you invest a whole bunch of resources into something, and then it doesn't happen because it's a dice game.
I suppose the difference with Asajj is that the force push is guaranteed.
Yeah.
You spend 2 on the jumps and 2 on the force push, and although you spent 4 force in a turn, she has gotten on the point and moved who she wants off the point. There's no question. The only problem is as soon as she takes a wound, that becomes 6 force. Or 7 actually.
Overall, I quite like her.
Yeah. I think her only issue is that she's just a bit too squishy. She has some really nice healing abilities. She has really nice healing on her tree. But at 9 health and with mediocre defense, she so often dies in 1 or 2 shots before she can have a turn to heal.
Yeah, 9 is a little bit squishy, I suppose.
Yeah, the defense is more where the squishiness is, right? 9 is the low end of primaries. I've started looking at defenses in a way where you add up both defenses. And so the average secondary character and support character have about 9 dice each. A lot of supports have 9.
You mean between ranged and melee?
Yeah, between ranged and melee defense, they get about 9 dice. The secondaries get about 10 dice, and the primaries get about 11. And so I find that's a better way of looking at their defenses as a stat block. Obviously, each expertise tree can wildly change what those numbers look like.
Yeah.
And how effective they are. But Asajj just has very average defense, quite low health. It just makes her really quite easy to just focus down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, luckily she is super mobile, so you can maybe try to keep her out of the way.
I think that's not the easiest thing to do in Shatterpoint compared to other games because of the very generous line of sight rules, as well as the fact that yes, you want to be on the objective and with someone like Asajj in the front lines.
Yeah.
Kraken and the B1s, how do we feel about them?
It's Kalani, isn't it?
It is Kalani. Why was I thinking it was Kraken? You've gotten me on that one.
They are super similar.
They're very similar.
Kalani is very good.
I think Kalani is really good. Yeah, I love the +1 dice. I love it's not a combat action situation, and that you can give those dice out on all the extra attacks you're making.
Yeah, and a big on activation movement bubble.
A big on activation move of everyone in range. A tactical network to dash and attack someone. It really makes the identity of playing droids.
That's kind of almost everything you really want in a support piece, right?
Yeah, on top of an incredible attack.
That's true. I've definitely one-shot Kenobi
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. He has a really good attack to top it off, because he needed a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, what would you say that if Rex is kind of one of the must-haves if you're playing Republic, Kalani is the same for...
Ooh, I'm not sure. I think Kraken's better. I think the board-wide movement rather than the range movement is a lower potential.
Yeah.
It's a higher floor and a lower ceiling.
More consistent.
But the protection and steadfast is really where I put the value on Kraken over Kalani.
Okay, yeah.
The fact he can dash himself with his dash, or someone at any range, so that's really where I put his value on over Kalani. I think if you play Kraken and Kalani together, they're incredible, although you lose out on taking some guaranteed control, because you don't have a Django type piece.
Django.
But yeah, I think together they're incredible, but with just Kalani, he can end up in situations where he doesn't feel like he's in the battle, on turns like on struggles 2 and 3.
Yeah, makes sense. Still pretty good piece to have, I think, generally.
I think he's the best 5-cost secondary.
The competition for 5-cost secondaries at the moment is not super fierce.
It's not, is it? Ooh, he can certainly have the medal of being better than Aura Singh. And who's the other one? That's what I'm trying to think of now. There's another one who's also not good, right? Or is it just IG that's the support?
I actually really think IG is a lot of fun, but
IG is a lot of fun, but as we know, he can off himself early, and it is an awkward situation.
indeed.
That happened in one of your games, right?
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was necessarily bad for me. I mean, he did do a bunch of damage as well.
I find that his damage ends up very spread out and low across the team, and then ends up often spread damage in this game doesn't go anywhere because it just gets healed.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of healing pieces, not in every team, but in enough teams that it does put me off. Yeah, I suppose there's really only 2 5-cost secondaries.
Yeah, so better than Aura is
Better than Aura Singh. Maybe better than Paz Vizsla. We just don't know yet.
current title.
Champion of the 5-cost secondaries. The most Pyrrhic of victories.
Yeah, and then you get B1 battle droids.
The B1s. I think they were solid when they came out, and I think they're solid now. They just do their job.
Yeah, they're a 3-point.
They're a 3-point.
Also make 501st look kind of bad.
They've got a ton of health. They've got dreadful defense, but it doesn't matter because more health is more good.
And they also can get protection.
They get protection. More health on top of health. Although I find they rarely actually get it because they're so often shoved off before taking their damage. Especially once people know the trick, you know. But I still think they're a really high value piece. I love that they have a reposition on step 2 of their tree. They look quite low mobility, but when their turn ends up being run and shoot with another run on the end, and they have those large bases, they really can get far across the board.
Yeah, it's not bad. I guess there are a couple of terrain pieces they just can't fit on.
Yeah, that's a little bit awkward for sure, and clearly part of AMG's design was that they can't fit on them, but it is interesting that that's where they went with it.
Can't have everything, right?
Can't have 9 health protection and get to play the game. Don't be silly.
Oh, overall, I think all 3 of these are quite solid.
Yeah, I think they've all aged really well. I don't think any of them need particularly changing. The only one who I would even look at is a Sarge, and that's not particularly to make her more powerful, but just to balance out her force economy a little, because I think it's a bit extreme right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then we've only had 2 primaries that start with A, so we probably need one more of those. So we'll talk about Ahsoka's squad. It's really only now that I'm realizing they're all starting with the letter A. And that I wrote them out in alphabetical order.
Ahsoka. That's probably one of the primaries I've played least with.
That's going to be the case for me as well.
Maybe just during launch events.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not a huge fan. I just remember doing her 5 dice attack into Dooku back when I didn't know that you shouldn't do that.
Oh no.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah. Dooku will teach you that lesson for sure. Yeah, that is a bit awkward. I like the idea of her. I just think characters who've come out since have taken the idea and ran with it much better. Like Mandalorian. He doesn't get a dash towards, he gets a generic reposition. And while he doesn't get a 5 dice attack, he does get the heal. And he does get to give out some hunkers and such.
Yeah, and I guess he gets an extra attack or push during his activation.
On his own card, yeah, with a much better tree.
I think I kind of prefer less conditional abilities, because you're just giving your opponent more stuff to play around.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some really nice ideas behind Ahsoka, but yeah, I think over the last year, she's definitely one who's fallen behind curve as other characters have come out that have better revenge triggers, or better movement triggers, better defense. She's not top in class of anything. She's not the worst at anything. Maybe at attack damage. Her tree's just a little lackluster as her attack dice.
I mean, I think she's still pretty playable. If you really like Ahsoka, go for it.
Yeah. You can bring her to the table, but she wants to be in a specific kind of list, a very defensive list, and I think you just always have a better option that has more synergies and is just more useful at something. Maybe not better at everything than Ahsoka, but I think having a few things you're good at is better than being very jack of all trades approach, which I think is what Ahsoka takes.
Yeah. With her, I guess we've got a whole bunch of Mandalorians. Bo-Katan is the secondary.
Yeah, Bo-Katan. I think the Mandalorians are really interesting. When they came out, I loved them, and then they've taken a bit of a backseat. But I can absolutely see them coming back out now. We're getting more Mandalorian releases.
Yeah, I've played them a couple of times when I really wanted to add a jump into my list, I think.
Yeah, the mobility is really incredibly good.
Yeah, I would say Bo-Katan and also the Mandalorians that come with her are middle of the pack.
I think the problem is that they've also aged. When new things come out, they just do the Mandalorians, the Clan Crees, and Super Commandos just look worse on defense than the new stuff that comes out. They're supposed to have this Beskar armor, but the new Imperial units like the ISF and ISB just have better defense and often better offense. And so you just end up thinking, why am I taking these guys?
They don't have the jump, though.
They don't have the jump. They still don't have the jump. But I'm not sure it quite makes up for the synergy you choose to miss out on by taking Mandalorians.
I guess maybe if there was some official map layout that came out where jump was super necessary somehow, that you knew you were going to have to play, then they'd be pushed up as well.
Yeah. Maybe you'd see the Weequay Pirates come out.
I think that situation is probably pretty unlikely, though.
Yeah, it's not the most likely, is it? But I don't hate them. I sound like I'm being negative on them. I still think there's plenty to like about the Clan Crees Mandos. They've got a shove on 1 and 2 with a really good attack expertise. Their defense expertise is good, despite me just shitting on it. It's no longer the standout it was when the game came out. And they only get 4 defense dice.
Yeah.
Bo-Katan has 4 and 4, and Gar Saxon has 4 and 4.
Feels low.
And it really just feels a bit lackluster, yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess you mentioned Gar Saxon already. The other...
We can talk about the other squad, but yeah, I don't think you can mention one set of Mandos without the other.
Yeah.
I think it's also worth mentioning that a lot of things in this game seem to run on a very weird balance. Some things in this game start with 7 dice, and then have moves that let them add more. But other things that add dice only bring them up to 7 or 8, and they start at 5 or 6. It's a very strange way of running things. You think, oh, I've got these cool abilities that add attack dice, but oh, I only start with 5 dice to make up for that. But it means that you really have to go for the abilities, and they're no longer a boon, but a detriment if you don't get them.
Kind of baseline, I guess, has been increased.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played Super Commandos a bit.
I've played a ton of Super Commandos with Mother Towson. I think there's a lot that's good about them. I love that they get a shove on their expertise tree. I love that Gar Saxon gets a shove on his expertise tree. I think Gar Saxon's a lot better than people give him credit for. I think he's an underplayed model because Bo-Katan's protection bubble is so good.
Yeah, I definitely played more Bo-Katan than Gar Saxon.
Yeah, and it's understandable. They play really well together, but it's rare that you want a squad of all Mandalorians because up until now didn't have a primary, and even now you can't play them all under that primary because of eras.
Well, the problem I have with Gar Saxon is if I'm gonna do that, then I kind of just wish it was Django, but that's a different issue.
I mean, Gar Saxon has a different kit to Django,
Sure.
for sure.
Sure.
You know, he has a much more support allocated kit. While he is a sniper, he's a damage dealer. I find Django often does 3 damage and a strain on his attack.
Yeah, but he does do the free displacements.
He does. Django's an incredible piece, there's no disagreement there, but I think his job and Gar's are different.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This is like every secondary, though. Every time I draw a secondary, I'm like, if that was Django, it'd be great.
Oh, I think the secondary's okay. But it could have been Django.
My whole list could have been Django.
If only. Actually, I think they've got that list coming out, right? Where you play Delta Squad and Hunter and the All Clones list. I do look forward to Delta Squad, actually. I thought that was a very fun reveal. All Clones will be a fun list to play.
Yeah, I think it's actually really cool that they're doing a lot of the kind of, let's say, well-loved but a little bit niche IPs.
Yeah, these guys are hardly even canon. Their extent in canon is that they're referenced to be confirmed exist. Other than that, they're in some Legends books and some Legends video game, which as a child I loved.
2 games, right? And something like 5 books.
Were
but
they in?
Technically, they're not all.
Were they in another game? I've only played Republic Commandos that they're in.
Wasn't there a second Republic Commando?
I didn't think there was. I never played it. Have I missed out? Oh no.
Go. You can take a Google after this.
I'm gonna have to.
I seem to remember there were 2 games, but I could be mistaken.
I mean, they are canon, but they're only just about canon. And I suppose that leaves a lot of interesting ground for making other characters who are only just about canon through reference and such.
Yeah, I mean, I know when the original Commandos came out,
Yeah.
a bunch of people painted them, like they were these guys. So it is very cool that they're coming out officially.
Yeah, they're well loved, and like I say, they're a part of my childhood. Yeah, their only canon appearance is an episode of Clone Wars where they just about appear as a cameo.
Enough, I guess.
That's enough.
All right, so last unit of the core set.
Last but not least, Maul.
Well, I really love playing Maul. I think he feels very fun.
Yeah. Anakin, Asajj, and Ahsoka are all in A tier, and Maul is in M tier, right?
I also kind of wish every primary I drew was Maul some days.
Yeah, I do. Why can't my list just be Maul and Django?
Maul and Django, yep.
Who made my list, and who put these characters who aren't Maul, Django, and Magna Guards in here? Yeah, he can have a massive amount of board impact with very little investment.
Yeah, and I think, when the game first came out, I looked at his kind of in wounds.
Yeah.
Injury threshold, and I thought, oh, Maul is gonna get himself killed all the time.
If you play him badly, he will.
Yeah, so he can get him killed.
You can also keep him alive. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
11 health is a good chunk. It means he rarely dies in one attack.
Yeah.
He gets his incredible movement speed. He can make 3 moves a turn and a jump between his movement action, his force cost movement, his reposition, and the jump on his tree.
He kind of gets everywhere, hits really hard, pulls someone off a point without having to roll dice.
He is an expert at pulling men off, I will say that.
I think he...
And exposing them.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of innuendo in that card.
I think he also brings in that unique forceless aspect where he can swap one resource for another.
There's definitely a massive reason to why he's been so popular as a second half of a list filler.
Yeah.
Is just by putting him in, you're adding force to your list without bringing a piece that spends it. And he's always a good piece. He runs on his own, he doesn't need any help. He just goes to points, takes people off of them, and gets on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maul is so good. I was talking to Paul, who I played with quite a bit, and he even said that if he played too much Maul in a row, and it kind of warped the way that he played.
Yeah.
Just because having an infinite force makes you play the game a bit more differently, right?
Yeah, when I started out, I only played Separatists, basically. And it was very strange going to other lists that actually had to care about this force resource that I've heard so much about.
Yeah, these little tokens you gotta flip over.
I'd been eating them. I just snacking on them between games.
Yeah, so I think Maul is still one of the best primaries in the game, definitely.
I really agree. Do you think he's good enough that he needs to be toned down?
I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't think so either. When I see Maul come out on the table, it doesn't fill me with dread. Even though he can do some ridiculous moves, and he can go from one objective on one side to the other and remove people, it doesn't feel oppressive.
Yeah, maybe... Is that because he mainly has an impact on himself and his activation?
Absolutely.
And he doesn't give this, game-wide mega effect that triggers every other round.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything game warping. He's not Vader 1 with his plus dice bubble. It's not even a bubble, that's part of the issue. It's infinite range.
Yeah.
Infinite range, no tag restrictions, just have more dice.
Yeah, I think Maul is one of my favorites. I think he's very forgiving to play.
Yeah.
I think he probably counts as what I would call first order optimal in Shatterpoint. Maybe we'll discuss that at a later episode. But basically something that's pretty straightforward and very strong for how much experience and brain power you need to put in.
Yeah, absolutely. As we said earlier, some things have skill floor and ceiling. And he definitely has, while he does have a high skill ceiling, he also has a low skill floor. To start playing Maul, all you have to do is remember not to use Dark Rage. Do not let the extra dice tempt you. Do not play Dark Rage.
I mean, or go ahead and do it. It might work out.
Darkside David coming out, whispering in your ear, flip him to Dark Rage.
I know, you combine him with Vader and, just take a little bit more.
How do you think his revenge trigger has aged compared to the newer revenge triggers we have in the game? Because now we have guys like Giddy and Hask who just get to attack you and it doesn't have to be melee and they don't have to die in a specific way.
I think it's probably fine with Maul.
I think it's okay. It's certainly restrictive, but again, Maul's hitback is so powerful because of those extra dice that I think it's okay to be the one that is restrictive.
Yeah, I think if you gave him a ranged
Yes.
one.
But I think it's worth mentioning that newer stuff that's come out has far less restrictions on that same ability.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think that's about all I have to say for Maul and probably the core box in general.
Yeah, I mean, so we got at least one really good primary, a couple of quite fun primaries, a couple of extremely good secondaries, Kalani and Rex. I think it's still quite a good box.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's worth the money. I think if you're looking to get into Shatterpoint, this is still the way in. Getting 2 boxes is good, and if there's characters you really want and you just want to play with some friends, it's absolutely an option. But the value for money in the core box is still good. The characters are still relevant. You're not going to feel bad about buying it.
Yeah, you get a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
I think the only comments is maybe if you really don't like the Clone Wars era, maybe, yeah.
I think that's definitely an issue I've heard from people, is that they have no interest in playing things inside the Clone Wars era. They don't care for the prequels content.
Was it me?
It wasn't just you. Maybe it was you, but it wasn't just you for sure. I didn't know we had a prequels hater amongst us.
I think Maul gets a pass because he shows up in so much other stuff.
Look, as we know, to be a true Star Wars fan, you must hate all of Star Wars. The more Star Wars you hate, the bigger a fan you are.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to hate Rogue One.
Oh, that's true. I do like Rogue One.
I don't think I've met a Star Wars fan that didn't like Rogue One yet.
Right, so this is our new segment, the Payday segment, where we're going to talk about a character in a list that they don't normally fit in, like the Payday tag. Today we were going to talk about Anakin, because we're going through the core set, and we just thought we'd start with the first character alphabetically.
The original Skywalker.
The original Skywalker, or maybe the second Skywalker.
In some form. Actually, it might be the third Skywalker, if you're counting little Anakin. Well, if you count the other non-Anakin Skywalkers.
Yeah.
It's actually maybe more like the fifth. And anyway, he's a Skywalker.
Yeah, there's a lot of Skywalker. They get about. So, the list I was thinking for Anakin was a separatist list. A sort of, what if Anakin had joined the dark side?
Mm-hmm.
And had joined Count Dooku. So what I've got here is Count Dooku with Jango and Magna Guards, and then Anakin with Obi-2 and B1s.
All best friends.
So obviously Dooku gets to move the Magna Guards. Magna Guards are always good, and he brings a ton of force.
Yep, and then Anakin is meant to spend it.
I think Anakin spends your force, yep. He gets to do your Shatterpoint cards, while Dooku sits defensively on the points. Obi-2 helps keep your Anakin alive a little bit longer to stop that force cost going up. And I just really like that you can play Count Dooku with Obi-Wan and Anakin in the list. There feels like there's something thematic there. like they're on a little mission.
I mean, the secondaries are hard to argue with. I think no one will cry playing
Yeah.
OB2 Django.
Yeah, maybe they're a little too meta, if anything. But I do like it as a list as well. I just find there's something very cute about playing the three of them together. It makes me think of that Clone Wars arc where they all hang out. Best buds. Of course, the droid set supports running off of Dooku's ability are all really good.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it sounds pretty solid.
I think I'll give this list a try in the next week, and then maybe we can report back on how it went.
Get a little more offense from Anakin if Dooku can be more defensive.
Yeah, and then you've got Django who can also refresh your force as well as Dooku. So they can't just ignore your threats. And what map do you think this list would play best on? Because I think shifting priorities is where you'd want to go.
Yeah, I think so too. Shifting priorities is meant to be the more generalist mission, right?
Yeah, I find myself often leaning towards it. It just feels like there's a lot less variance.
I think the other two, maybe you really need to have some sort of plan.
Yeah, I think so. Often I find that whoever's killiest wins on sabotage, and that just can come down to dice. That just puts me off. Yeah, I've not played enough Never Tell Me the Odds to quite know yet, but every time I play it, I want to have a unit that deploys at range 3.
Yeah, that one's a bit tricky, and a lot more kind of moving around out of activation.
Yeah, out of activation movements, which this list does not have a whole ton of. So maybe that's something that could be looked at. Maybe you want to actually take Kraken in there, and you want to drop Kenobi. You want to play slightly more droid heavy.
Yeah, I guess Kenobi and Django both like Force as well, so...
They are both quite Force hungry.
The problem is both of their abilities are so strong that, just threatening them, you already get a lot of value. So you don't actually have to spend the Force.
Yeah, I do find that to be the case with Kenobi. While Kenobi looks like an incredibly expensive piece, just being able to do his ability and the threat of that turning off an attack is good enough for them not to do the attack. So often he basically gets his ability for free.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. Give it a go.
Over the next week I will run this and I will let you know how it went. Is there anyone you think would be interested in a squad outside of their designated affiliations from the core set?
well, I just want to play Maul with everything.
You just want to play Maul.
But Maul has no affiliation. Maul's affiliation is every team that wants to spend Force.
The problem is, I love playing Maul with Scoundrels and Dathomirians. I love playing Maul in affiliation.
So I was really considering playing Maul instead of Cad Bane with Mando.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like Cad Bane alright. I just
I think the problem with Cad is, he doesn't have a good enough secondary. The bounty hunters actually play fine.
Yeah, it's true.
But I feel so bad taking a 9 and then taking a 4 and not a 5.
I think I could live with Django being a 5.
You know what? I would love to see some more scoundrels type characters in the Clone Wars era, because we're now getting a lot in the Galactic Civil War era, but there's still not very many for the Republican separatists. Especially seeing that Bosk won't be in the separatist era is very strange to me.
Yeah, some of the era locks I find a bit strange, but maybe there'll be another box.
I think it's because they plan to release more of the same characters. They have this thing in MCP where they say that a character is a snapshot in time of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And some are a bit broader and are in more affiliations, but some are very narrow and are supposed to be from maybe even just one arc and will only be in the teams that they're in that arc. And I think that's the same for Shatterpoint probably.
Yeah.
So this Bosk is just the Empire Bosk. And at some point we'll just get a separatist Bosk, and he'll play a little differently. I imagine when making a Shatterpoint card, you go through so many abilities that don't get on the card that I don't feel bad about getting a second card to put all those abilities that didn't quite make the cut onto. I'm sure there are 2 or 3 different Bosks on the cutting room floor that are also great, but weren't quite what they wanted in this box. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there are quite a few characters that I sort of want in other eras. Hondo as well.
Hondo, I would love to have a Rebel Zero Hondo, yeah. But you know what? Again, that's mostly because of the support characters that aren't available to him. It's not that I want Hondo in the Rebels era. It's that I want people to play with Hondo that aren't the couple of guys he can play with right now.
Yeah, maybe he'll get something else.
Yeah.
Maybe he won't be a primary.
I think that could be interesting. Get a primary Ezra.
Yeah,
I would love to see an Old Master Maul as well.
I'm sure we'll get it someday.
I'm sure we will. Someday. If I would spend money on it. And I would, AMG, if you're listening.
If they're listening, I want Jabba.
Jabba would be really interesting. You know who I want controversially is Newt Gunray.
Well, we are missing a separatist primary, I guess.
I want a separatist primary Newt Gunray. I want him to be all about supporting his droidicas and whoever his other secondary is.
6-point second.
Maybe 6-point supports with the droidicas.
Yeah.
Makes them really good.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
But I think you more realistically go for them at a 5. And you give Newt some abilities that support them. I think you give him an ability called Trade Blockade or something. Where, I don't know, you can't make reserving cost 1 more because we already have that with Gideon. What can you make cost slightly more because of Trade Blockade?
You just make all of Hondo's things not work. That's it. It affects no other character.
Any scoundrel characters just aren't allowed to play this game. Got him on that one.
Yeah, he'd be an interesting one. So I haven't played that much MCP, but do you think there will be kind of larger models and vehicles and things ever in Shatterpoint?
Well, I have always liked the idea of getting some larger models and vehicles. I like the idea of like 2 scout bikers, and that's a whole squad. So they'd have a rule where they ignore like the primary, secondary support rules, and between 2 models, that's your whole squad. Or like a Rancor, that's your whole squad. And I think that becomes a lot more likely with these new Galactic Legends rules.
Yeah, at least maybe in a different game mode.
Maybe in a different game mode, and I think they should be bad but playable in the main game mode.
Mm-hmm.
I think anything that significantly breaks the intent of the game should be playable, but should be bad.
Sure.
For instance, in Marvel Crisis Protocol, there's a character, Dormammu, and he's the most expensive character in the game. However, his ability is that he can take anyone on the team with him, as he lose any restrictions to squad building. But as the most expensive character in the game, he's not very good. And I think it has to be that way. Because for all the fun you get from playing him, if he was good for his points, he would be the best thing in the game. Because everyone would just take all the best characters under him. And you'd have no downsides. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so I think anything that's format breaking, that you don't want to see on every table all the time, has to be bad. But fun.
That's the trick though, I guess. Gotta make it fun.
Yeah, I want someone to bring the Rancor and to have fun with it and smash up my guys. But ultimately, I want to still be able to beat them on objectives. Which I think is probably how something like that balances itself out in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think you really don't have to nerf them too hard. You can make a real powerhouse figure, but it slowly stomps around the board killing things and can't keep up on points particularly well. Yeah.
All right, so I think that's all we had for today. As always, thanks for listening, and we hope to see you next time.